Hey guys, it's Carly. Welcome back to Mostly Dating, a First Rounds on Media production. First Rounds on Me is a dating app that you guys have heard me talk about for years. It's designed to help people get off of the dating app and out on a date in real life. So when I was on dating apps, this was my biggest issue. I felt like I was chatting with people, I was becoming their pen pal, and we were never actually going out in real life. And this app is really created to avoid that and to help you meet people and really have those experiences that bring you closer to a relationship. So I'm excited to be working with them, and I'll tell you guys more about them a little bit later in the episode. But first, just wanted to say, hope everybody had a great weekend. If you're listening on the day this is released, it is the Monday before Christmas. So this episode is going to be really focused on a lot of holiday questions. I have a lot of listener questions we're going to dive into. But before we do that, I have never gotten so many questions about a topic that I posted about recently, now a few weeks ago on my feed, and will be linked in the show notes here. How to flirt. So this is something that I kind of asked in a bunch of different posts that I've had over the past few months is this something people want me to talk more about? Because I just kept getting messages from people after episodes or after posts on Instagram that everyone was saying they don't know how to flirt or like complaining that other people don't know how to flirt anymore. And it was just like kind of a post-COVID thing where people don't know how, not even how to flirt, but how to express interest. So especially if you are out with friends and maybe you see someone you think they're cute and you want to kind of have a flirty conversation, seems like people forgot how to do that. So I did a post a couple of weeks ago, like I said, that was just kind of 8 tips on how to be better at flirting. And it was mostly framed toward on a date. So on a first date, how do you bring that like flirtatious energy, especially for people who feel like they don't have chemistry on early dates. And that's another thing that like I dealt with a lot, my friends deal with. I get questions a lot about this, and people that I talk to who are single and out there dating are always asking. I just talked about this on the podcast a few weeks ago, is like, what do you do when you don't have a spark on the first date? Do you try again? What's like, how do you go from there? Can the spark grow? That's like a debate that we could have for like a whole podcast episode. But I think a lot of it does come down to like sometimes you have to show up as the person who's bringing that flirty energy if the other person isn't. And it's something you can really learn with just like a few tips and honestly practice. I think you do. It's something that like just like dating, the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be doing it. So the first thing that is at the crux of flirting in a successful way is just having confidence. And that's like a simple, sounds a lot easier than it is. It's something that's going to be like a constant, not battle, but just like a constant thing that you're working on. It's the more that you can embody this like sense of confidence, the more naturally it's going to come to you. So it's like that fake it till you make it kind of thing is like for a while you are going to be kind of like pretending to be more confident than you probably are, especially if you're on a date and you have nerves. That's a normal thing. But there are a lot of things that can help you be more confident in your day-to-day life, and that will carry over to your dating life. So think about it like self-care or just like spending time with people who make you feel good about yourself, who you feel comfortable with, like family members, friends. Doing more things around those people can help you feel naturally confident around people that you don't know. Also, like it might sound weird, but the more you like, the better you know yourself, the more confident you'll be. So if you feel like something we talk about on the podcast a lot is values and knowing your values and knowing the things that are important to you. If you feel like a little bit lost in that area and you don't really feel like you know yourself, your values, your goals, and like as like lame as it might sound, like your overall purpose, those are things you want to be clear on and have that like self-love, self like knowledge, I guess, that will make you feel so much more confident. And that's why I say that it is kind of like an ongoing thing, building confidence, because that's something like you're always changing, evolving. But the more type of like self-work you can do, whether that's like journaling or just different things that help you get to know yourself better, like some of the questions I post on Instagram, like questions to ask your partner, ask yourself those questions. Like sometimes I'm thinking, I'm writing that list and I'm asking my boyfriend and I'm like, wait, I actually don't know how I would answer that for myself. So do some like self-reflection, and that will really help you be more confident. And then another one that it might sound a little strange for building confidence is learning new things regularly. That makes you feel so confident. Like if you just feel like you're kind of doing the same thing day to day, like you're kind of in your routine with your job and your life and all of that, and you don't have like intellectual stimulation, then you might not feel so confident. Like nothing like few things make me feel as confident in myself as like when I learn something new or I try something new. So those are just little things that will build your confidence, and then the confidence will help you with flirting. And some other ways to flirt better. So on the date, you want to make sure that you're staying present. You want to not this is again so much easier said than done, but don't get so caught up thinking about how they're feeling about you or how the date is going or like what you're going to say next. Like this is something that I still do in my relationship sometimes and I would always do on dates is like when somebody is talking to me, I would just always be thinking about like, "Oh, I have a good thing that I wanna say next." And then I'm just, like, in my head thinking about that thing I wanna say next, and it's like, "What did they just say to me?" And, like, you're not getting to know them because 'cause you're not fully listening, and it sounds like how is, like, listening flirting? But the more you listen to them and the more engaged you are in the conversation and just staying present, you'll have, like, so much more to work with when you're actually, like, flirting with them and you get into, like, the actual flirting. And it also just, like, staying present makes you feel and, like, appear and come off more at ease, which is a really attractive thing. If you seem, like, kind of calm and collected and just in the moment, it's, like, a lot more attractive to the person than you being, like, up in the clouds and not paying attention. And then getting into the actual flirting, you wanna be direct. So it's like yeah, you can build some mystery around yourself, like, that's fun sometimes too, but, like, being direct with someone and straightforward and upfront is so attractive. So, if you feel something about, like, a specific topic, say it. If you like something that they're wearing or something that they're doing or you like their laugh or something like that, like, tell them. If you're having fun, you can say it. Like, that you can do these things in a flirty, lighthearted way, and just that directness of being like, "Wow, I'm having such a good time," or, "Oh, you look really good in that shirt." Like, compliments are another huge way to flirt, one of my favorite things, but just be direct and, like, say how you're feeling, and that's gonna come off as attractive. One thing to think about though is that like it should always be a two-way street. So if you're kind of sprinkling in these flirty behaviors and you're doing things like another thing would be like grazing their arm or touching their leg or things like that, like and they're just like completely blank and not doing any of those things in return, I would pull back and just like kind of not put on, like, the flirting all of the flirting vibes, but if they're returning it, like, sometimes you do have to be the first one to make that little move, and it could be, again, as small as giving them a compliment or saying something directly or grazing their arm or whatever it is, like, it's the same thing as making the first move in terms of, like, asking someone out or kissing them on a date, like, sometimes somebody has to sort of, like, lift the veil on, like, "Oh, there is a vibe here," like, "Oh, we're flirting," and then the person returns it, so do that. Play with, like, your body language a little bit because what a lot of, like, flirting is really down to just, like, your energy. It's, like, not something that you can, like, write a recipe for. It's more about, like, opening up your energy and, like, mirroring their actions, making eye contact, smiling. Like, if you see somebody across the room at the bar, you can do the whole, like, eye contact. When they look at you, you smile, and then you look away, and then you do that a couple more times, and it's, like, obviously you're into them. They're gonna feel that from across the room. You could do something similar on a date, like, make sure you're making eye contact throughout, smiling, all of those things will normally come naturally when you're into somebody and you're on a date and you guys are vibing, but if you feel yourself, like, kind of being not giving that body language as much, then make an effort to do it. Another thing that helps is just finding common ground. So again, this goes back to the active listening and really like participating in the conversation and being in the moment and listening to them, paying attention to what they're saying. That's going to help you figure out like what you guys have in common and really build that like emotional connection, which really comes into play when you are doing those flirty things. Like when you think of flirting, you might think of like teasing them a little bit or having that flirty banter, and all of those things are going to be like more successful and kind of like stick better if you are getting to know them. If you get to know something about them and you can kind of tease them about it, or if you find out that you both like a certain thing and you can kind of like joke around about it a little bit, that builds the flirtatious energy and that chemistry on the date. Another thing that like I'm sure people who are listening are laughing about because I always talk about doing activity dates and things like that together, challenging them to something or like placing a little bet on something. If you guys are out watching a sports game, place a bet on that, or just like challenge them to you're at a bar with games, challenge them to play a game of, like, darts, which is, like, a random thing that I like to do on dates, but do something like that to sort of, like, build a little fun into the date, and, like, even if you're placing a bet, you can place some type of, like, flirty stakes on it, like, you have to kiss them if you win or something like that. So, that can help just kind of, like, keep it light and do, like, just kind of spice it up from just like sitting there asking each other questions. Another thing I said in the post was give them compliments. I already mentioned that. So a lot of people, I did a recent poll on Instagram, and the bulk of people said that they just feel uncomfortable complimenting. I think you have to kind of flip your mindset and not think of it as like you're not going to be showering them in compliments. Like you shouldn't do that. That's like the whole love bombing thing. You don't want to like be going over the top with it, but the best way to compliment is to like do it naturally. So if you are into someone and you're having a good time on the date, there's going to be things that you like about them. Like you're into them because you like their style, or you're into them because you think it's really cool that they know so much about a specific topic. Like tell them, "Oh, it's so cool you know so much about this." Or, "Oh, I love that shirt that you wear. Or, that color looks really good on you. You have a great smile. Your laugh is contagious." Like you can as you think of things you like about them, like it shouldn't be a secret when you're out on a date with someone that you like them. It's not like a weird, embarrassing thing that you're into the person that you're sitting on a date with. So you can say it and it kind of builds, again, that flirtatious chemistry. And then another important thing is just like the flirting vibes in today's like dating era should not just be on the date. You should be kind of like sprinkling those breadcrumbs between the dates, like over texting and everything. And some people are not like super engaged texters. So maybe you're not texting, you shouldn't be texting like all day, every day between your dates. But maybe you send them like a quick text reminding them how much fun you had on your last date, or telling them they looked good last time you saw them, or something like depending on what the vibe already is between the two of you and how often you've been out and like where you are in the dating phase. You can choose like how direct you want to be, or if you want to be like send out like the sexy flirting vibes, or if you just want to make it like more lighthearted, like when can I see you next with like a cute emoji or something like that. You can feel it out that way, but building that chemistry over text just kind of like makes you more excited to see them next time, and then like again lifts the veil on the flirting vibes, and once you're out next time they'll like kind of know that you're into them in that way, and then maybe they'll bring the flirtatious energy as well. And then a couple other tips is like these are kind of like small little things, but use their name in conversation. People like to hear their name back to them. So don't say it like every other sentence and be like kind of weird and creepy with it, but just like drop in their name in a little flirtatious way. Bring up little things that you've learned about them, again, whether it's like lightly teasing them or just kind of reminding them and showing them that you are listening and paying attention. Anything you could do to make them like genuinely laugh, because again, having that similar sense of humor is like so helpful in building chemistry. So bringing those like lighthearted, friendly, not necessarily like friendly, but lighthearted vibes where you're both laughing and having a good time. And then like most importantly is like be vulnerable in the way that like you're not supposed to be perfect. People are going to be attracted to your uniqueness and the things that make you like who you are. So you want to make sure that you're showing like little flaws, or just like opening up about like a small thing. You don't have to pour your heart out to them on early dates, but just like show that vulnerability. And that's going to, again, build that chemistry and make the vibes a little bit more flirtatious. All right, so I'm going to get into some listener questions. I did want to say I wish everybody could see when I asked specifically for questions about the holidays, I got like so many of all the same questions over and over and over again. So I'm going to kind of like narrow it down to these themes that I got and then go a little bit deeper into each of them. So one of them I'm not going to spend too much time on. I'll do this more on Instagram, but I did get a ton of questions about like, we've been dating for this long. What gift should I get them? And we've been dating for that long. Should I even get them a gift? And that's like, I know something that a lot of people are dealing with during the holidays, because this is being released the Monday before Christmas. I'm assuming most of you have already done a lot of your Christmas shopping since we're 2 days before it. But hopefully, as of now, I have shared all these ideas on Instagram. One thing I will say, though, because it will be helpful for future holidays, birthdays, and things like that, I genuinely do not think you should be buying a gift for somebody if you are not in an official relationship with them. So to each their own. If you guys talked about doing gifts and you feel really strongly about it and you want to do gifts for this person, you can. But like surprising somebody with a gift when you've been on 3 dates with them and you don't even know if you're exclusive is just like, it's not setting you up for success. It could like potentially make them a little weirded out. It could make you feel badly if you give them a gift and they didn't get something for you. You'll probably read into it when really it might not mean anything. Like I just think it's like it's very gray during that phase, and I don't think you need to like there's aside from just like showing them you were thinking about them, I don't think there's any real like pro to giving them a gift that early on. And you can just tell them you're thinking about them. You don't have to get them something. You could do like again, depending on the number of dates you've been on and how you guys are communicating and what the situation is, you could do like a holiday date or something where you guys like plan something special during the holidays where you go out and celebrate together and maybe you bring them something like, I don't know, their favorite candy or something small like that. I would stick with before the relationship is defined, I would stick with always something small. So even if you're exclusive, if it's not defined and you don't really know where you stand with this person, their favorite candy, like a dessert that they love, like maybe like an alcohol that they like, but I don't know. I think candy or dessert is fine. And another big question, and after that, like, I mean, it just really depends. I think that having communication around gifts that you're giving is really important. Last year? Yeah, last year was the first. I started dating my boyfriend in January 2023. So we dated for like almost a full year before our first Christmas together. And I made like a clear point to talk to him about what we were doing for gifts. Like, I wanted to make sure we were getting things in the same range. And we had done like birthday gifts before that and everything. He knows that I really strongly prefer like experience type gifts. I'm just like very turned off by having a lot of stuff. And so I don't really like gifts that are like actual things. So I like doing things together, like going out to a dinner or like I'll get him tickets for like a Rangers game or something like a nice gift, but something you can do together that's not like a thing is what I prefer. And so we had that conversation. I was like, oh, I'm going to get you more of like an experience thing. That's what I prefer too. Of course, I asked him like what he wanted, if there was any like thing that he wanted. But I think just talking about the amount of money you're going to spend, if you feel comfortable, which you should feel comfortable talking about money, as we talked about in last week's episode, have that conversation just to like clear anything up. Like even just start it by saying, are we doing gifts this year? Or if you want to do gifts, you start it by saying, oh, I already know what I'm getting you this year. Or you tell them some ideas of what you want. Or like by then, like if you're in an official committed relationship, I think you should know a little bit about like their own ideas around like the holidays, whatever holiday they celebrate, like what kind of gifts they do with their family or things like that. You can have those conversations to sort of like gauge maybe what their stance is around gift giving. So a lot of it comes down to communication because I did get a question where somebody asked, how do we make it not awkward? We just started dating recently. How do I make it not awkward with getting each other like different gifts in different ranges or like talking about spending the holidays with family or whatever it is? And we're going to get into the family stuff. But for gifts, I think it just communication, talk about it beforehand. And if you don't like the gift that they get you, then like be a little clear in the future with like the types of gifts that you like. Like you just kind of like drop that hint or tell them that at a later date. You don't have to like open it and be like, oh, I wish you got me this. So that's kind of like, I don't know, gift opening 101. We don't have to talk about that. But okay, so somebody asked on the gift giving front what to get your partner's parents for Christmas if you've only been dating for 5 months, if anything. I think this again comes down to if you're actually seeing them. So if you're not seeing your partner's parents for Christmas and you've only been dating them for 5 months, like I wouldn't get them a gift. You could ask your partner what they think. They're going to know their parents a lot better than I do. And so talk to them about it and see what they think. If you are seeing them, I would definitely bring something. And I would bring something small, like don't go crazy. You could either talk with your partner and bring something together, like depending on what they're getting for their parents, if they want to just like sign both of your names to it. But at the 5 month stage, I would probably veer toward just like letting them do their thing and then get your own small thing. So a couple ideas for that could be something. This was actually a suggestion from someone on Instagram, a follower who messaged me after somebody asked a similar question. They said something that's unique to where you're from, which I love that idea. So whether there's like I suggested like a dessert again or like a dessert or something like that you baked or something like that. But they said like anything that's unique to where you're from. So if there's a specific like pie that you're like, I don't know, your state is known for, like something that's like, I don't know, like some type of wine maybe that's like a local vineyard or something like that. Any wine I think is good for a gift if you know that they drink, maybe like a cocktail set if they're into that type of thing. I also think some type of like, I wouldn't do flowers, but maybe like a plant, like a succulent or something like that. Again, like chocolate dessert. I have like an obsession right now that my sister just asked me for recommendations for in-law gifts. And I told her to get them this like home diffuser thing. It's called the Pura. I'll put it in the show notes. It's like a smart diffuser. So you can set it from your phone and it makes your house smell amazing. And I just think people get so many candles. I personally have a drawer full of candles that I've gotten for gifts and I don't like, I just never use them. But this home diffuser, they can choose their own scents and it's something that they have forever. And I think it's like $50. So I think that could be a good thing. But talk to your partner about it and see what they think. Again, they know their parents best. Okay, so this person says, is 5 months too soon to meet each other's families, especially around the holidays? So, again, this was a topic that so many people asked about. Everybody wants to know if it's too soon. Everybody wants to know if it's weird that they're not spending the holidays with each other's families when it's only been 6 months and things like that. And first, I'll caveat by saying, like, it it's weird if you feel like it's weird. Like, I can't tell you if it's weird or not. It's the same thing as like, should I feel upset that my partner did XYZ? I don't know. Do you feel upset? Like, that's always my stance. So I don't think it's weird if you guys are spending holidays with your own separate families. I actually think that's pretty normal, if I'm to say like what's weird and normal. But it just depends on how you feel. Like, if your partner is not doing anything for the holidays and is just kind of like at home by themselves and you're going to your family and you want them to come and they don't want to come, I'm not saying that's weird, but I am saying like then that's like a conversation you guys should have. You should have a conversation about like why you're not on the same page about what you guys both want for the relationship at that point, like in terms of being with the family. And those are important conversations to have in general. So timelines, like I'm not here to tell you what the timeline is, but I can say that I do not think that, again, personal opinion, I do not think that meeting the family should be on a holiday. I think that at the very least, I would recommend that you have met at least like one or two family members, or they've met one or two of your family members before you jump into like a holiday setting. Because the holidays, like everybody's holidays are different. I don't know. Everybody does different things for the holiday celebration. Some people might have like just them and one parent and they're doing something small. Or some people might have like my family is like I have four sisters and a stepsister and a stepbrother and they're all married and they all have kids and like my parents are divorced. So there's two separate holidays and you do like the same thing back to back days. It's just like a lot. And so if I tried to bring if I tried to bring my boyfriend to that and he had never met any of them, he would have been a hard no. Like that's just like an uncomfortable situation to put somebody in. And so I think it is best if they've met a couple of people. And I think that I understand you being anxious. You want to like introduce them to your family. You're so excited. You're happy in the relationship. And it's like the holidays are so fun. But I would just think about that a little bit if it is the best time or if you want to wait it out for a time when it might be like a little bit lower, not pressure, but just like a little bit more relaxed, depending on what your family does for the holidays and if it's like intense. And of course, this also might be different if you are living far away from your family. So if you're living far away from your family and you've been dating this person for 6 months and you're going home for the holidays, they don't have any plans, they want to come with you, and you might not see your family again until like the next holiday, like by all means, bring them home. I'm not saying it's like a hard rule, but I just think like sometimes people will feel a little bit more comfortable if they have met at least one of the people before. Okay, so some signs that you are ready to bring them home. So I've already said this, but you're in a defined relationship. Do not bring somebody home to meet your family if they are like if it's a situationship. It's just I've done this before. I've met people's family when we are not in a defined relationship, and I always regretted it. I say always. I think I only did it like once or twice, but it's just like it fast forwards the relationship and it makes you think that you're in a relationship with them, which like, duh, like I genuinely thought because somebody was introducing me to their parents, that meant that we were going to be in a relationship and really it didn't mean anything. So introducing to the family means different. Introducing somebody to your family means different things for different people. And I just think to keep it like very clear and avoid somebody getting hurt, you should make sure that you're on the same page, like commitment wise, before you jump into meeting the family. And if you are in a defined relationship, I think another thing that's really important is to make sure that you're out of the honeymoon phase. And I don't love to use the term honeymoon phase because I feel like it's not, that shouldn't necessarily be something that just like ends in a relationship. I think it always ebbs and flows. But the initial, kind of like Taylor Swift, like you're out of the woods. Something like you're not, you know where you are in the relationship. It's not like, again, it's defined. Things aren't unclear. You know what you both want for the future, but you're also not in that like obsessed with each other, like so much lust and like everything's perfect phase because that's like the rose-colored glasses, and you wanna just make sure that you're, like, settled into the relationship, you're feeling good, you're both on the same page, you know what you want for it, and you feel confident in introducing them to your family. This is also for somebody who is introducing someone to their family and wants, like, a long-term relationship and is, like, I don't know, maybe, like, a little bit, like, in, like, 20 mid-20s plus, like, not like, I'm not talking about college, like, those are completely different rules. Um, but but once you are out of that honeymoon phase, I feel like or out of the woods, as I said, I feel like you'll have a better idea and confidence that, like, "Okay, I feel really confident and secure in this relationship, and I wanna introduce them to my parents, or I wanna meet their parents or their family." I also think it could be really helpful to test the waters with friends before meeting the family. So it's just, like, a little bit, at least in my personal circle, in my life, it's a little bit lower stakes. Like, I think meeting someone's family, you just do feel a lot more of that, like, nervousness and a little bit of pressure. You obviously want the family to, like, approve and all of that. And so I think meeting the friends first will be a little trial run. Of course, you also want their friends to like you too, but it's just like it takes the edge off for when you meet the family. So I think sort of checking that off the list before you meet the family is helpful. So another thing to do before you think about the family intros. And then I guess like it sounds dumb and obvious, but you should be excited about it. And of course, like it's not everybody's idea of the best day ever to go hang out with someone else's family or to go hang out with your family even. But you should feel it's normal to feel nerves, but you should feel underlying excitement that you're taking this next step in your relationship, that you're introducing your partner to your family or that you're going to meet their family. There should be like an excitement around it as like the, again, underlying feeling. And if you are feeling extremely stressed by it, really anxious, it's something to talk to your partner about, obviously. And I have a whole separate post with like tips for when you are actually meeting the family. This is more just like signs that you're ready to do it. But if one of you is feeling really anxious and the other one is feeling really excited, then I think it's time to like take a step back and have a conversation about why you're on again, like these different pages about where you are in the meeting the family situation. And then just remember that every family has its own dynamic, its own like quirks and things. And I got a lot of questions that are like, how do I prep my boyfriend? He's meeting my family and there's so much drama. Like, I think consider those things and think about like the timing, maybe what's going on in your family. Is it the best time? And just kind of have a conversation around that before you decide if this is the right time. Again, I'll link the post in the show notes for tips for meeting the family. I have two separate ones, like tips for meeting their family, and one is tips for introducing them to yours. They're pretty similar, but it's just like different conversations you can have and things to keep in mind as you do that. This next person says, I live in a tourist destination. Should I stay on the apps through the holidays or should I take a break? Somebody else right after asked, what are your thoughts on trying to start dating soon before the holidays? Is it too weird? Should I wait until the new year? So I did want to touch on this because I'm biased. I did meet my boyfriend on a dating app in like mid-December, right before the holidays. So I obviously am not going to tell you to stop going on the dating apps at that time. This was like the only successful relationship I had from a dating app. So I think you can meet somebody anytime. Like again, two people asked this question, probably more than two people. I only wrote down these two, but people are asking this question because people are out there wanting to date. You're not the only one who wants to be on a dating app right now. Like the world does not stop around the holidays. People are more busy, so they might not be able to meet you in real life right away. I think I might have matched with my boyfriend in like early to mid December, and we didn't go on our first date until January 2nd. So, and we didn't, that's a story for another day, but we did not like text back and forth nonstop. We just planned a date and then we went on it. Like, I think you can be, again, still like direct and still treat it the same way you would any time of year. But just understand that people's schedules might be a little different, but that doesn't mean you should pause things. Like it's the same as all of the questions I was getting last week about should I date even though I'm planning on moving to another city in 6 months? And it's like 6 months. Like somebody asked, should I date even though I might want to move somewhere 10 months from now? And I'm like, yeah, like you don't have to pause things just because there's something else going on. If you feel like you want to date, you can date. And that also, I will say though, that this is something that like I'm gonna talk a little bit more about First Rounds on Me at this point because I think that this is First Rounds on Me is the perfect app to use in January. It's perfect to use any time of year, but I would say right now that because people's schedules are like so strange and you might not be like meeting up right away, I think right now like keep doing what you're doing and then download First Rounds on Me like right at the end of the year. So as this is being released, it's December 23rd. Download it now because you can get it. You can get on there. The best thing about it is that from the second you match with somebody on the app, they only give you 24 hours to plan a date. So once you match with them, you'll chat for 24 hours, like send a few messages, feel their vibe a little bit. Then there's no endless back and forth. It just there's like a built-in planner on the app and it helps you plan the date. You'll pick the place, you'll pick the time, and then you'll go on the date. And everything, it just like takes the pressure off. That's my favorite thing about the app is that it like you don't feel that pressure of when are they going to ask me out? What should I say to make them know that I want to go out with them? And all of these questions that were floating through my head, even when I did match with my current boyfriend 2 years ago on the apps. Like it was that time of year, it was the holidays. I was not sure like when are we actually going to go out on a date? And we planned it, but it wasn't for like 2 weeks from then. And then you had to think about like, is it going to happen? And all of those things. First Rounds on Me takes that out of the equation and you just don't have all that small talk. So then once you get on the date, you have things to say and you're excited about it and you can focus on getting to know them without overthinking all the messages and overthinking what's going to happen. So it's an amazing app. I know there's like a huge surge in app downloads in December, January, especially in January. So I would take advantage of that. Like everyone who's single is going to be on these apps and First Rounds on Me is the only one that's like seriously focused on getting you on the dates. Apps aren't fun unless you're actually going on a date if you want a relationship. So I'm going to put my link in the show notes. You get a great deal for your first month. You get to try out all the features of the app. So definitely let me know what you think. And if you try it and if you go on a date, I want to hear all about it. But getting back to that question, I do think you should stay on. You should do what you're doing. I think it's a perfect time to like revamp your dating app profile, which I also do. So if you want me to revamp your dating app profile, I'll put a link in the show notes. You can sign up for a profile makeover. They're really fun. I love doing them. I've done so many this year and I've gotten like, I feel like now, because I started doing them probably in February. Yeah, this past February. And I've started getting so many messages over the past couple of months that are like, oh my God, you did my revamp earlier this year and now I'm dating somebody. Like, it's just so cool to see. And it obviously isn't 100% only because of what I did to their profile. But I think like even getting that advice from just like all the advice I give on here is like I'm not an expert. I'm just an unbiased person who is giving advice from an outside perspective and I don't know you. I don't like know all the intricacies of your life, so I'm able to just like tell you what I think. Like I can look at your profile and say like don't use these 3 pictures, move this one to the top, replace this prompt, like and then you do tell me a little bit more about yourself and then I help you really bring that to life on the app. And it's so helpful. So I think end of the year is great. You can look back at like your photos from this past year, update it, maybe think about some like new things you learned or tried this year, add them to your prompts, think about what you want in 2025. I almost said 2024, but think about what you want in 2025 and like bring that to life on your profile. So definitely use that link in the show notes if you do want me to help because that's one of my favorite things to do. Okay, moving right along. This next person says, This next person says, dating for 5 months. Family doesn't feel like they can be themselves at Christmas if my boyfriend is there. Should I uninvite him? This question is really tough. So first, I'm going to preface it again by saying that I obviously do not know your family dynamic and there might be something going on in your family that makes them feel this way. And I don't know like what that is. I can't speak to it. So that's something to consider. But again, I'm just going to give this advice as like a completely unbiased outsider. I think that there are a few things that I would do. So the first thing that you have to do in this scenario is talk to your family. Understand if you don't know why they feel this way, like you have to ask them questions. You have to get an understanding for why they are feeling like they can't be themselves if your partner, your boyfriend is there. I'm curious too. I always wish that I had the person here so I could ask questions, but I'm curious too if this is the first time you've introduced them to somebody, you've brought somebody home for the holidays, or like if you have siblings, if anybody has ever brought someone home for the holidays, or if your family is like it's always been like the same core group of people and they just don't want somebody else to like shake it up. Or again, like if there's some type of issue happening in your family and they feel uncomfortable having somebody else be there. The holidays are like a time when people just want to kind of like relax and be able to like be comfortable. And so if there is like a specific thing that's making your family uncomfortable, that's like something that you understand and something that you are wrapping your head around and it's making you asked like, should I uninvite them? So like it seems like there might be some part of you that understands and knows why they feel this way. So ultimately like it's your decision. I think that if you want your family to meet your partner, I don't know if they've met them before, but if you want your partner to be there for the holidays, then you should clearly express that to your family, express to them why you feel like your partner should be there and like assure them that they don't have to feel uncomfortable. Like do your best to sort of like resolve it with your family before you talk to your partner about it. But then that is like a huge part of it. I think that you need to communicate with your boyfriend. I don't necessarily, it's up to you if you want to like tell him that they said that. I think that I personally probably again, outsider opinion would not because they might feel really uncomfortable coming into the situation knowing that your family felt uncomfortable. Excuse me. But I also I don't know. I think that it could help him like maybe tread lightly. So again, you know all of the info. You've talked to your family now. Have the conversation with your boyfriend. Get everybody on the same page, and then depending on what you come up with and what you decide to do, I think you just need to like communicate to everybody to understand what's at the root of this issue and maybe like another thing you could do is like come up with an alternative plan. So like maybe he doesn't come there for the whole I almost said Thanksgiving, but maybe he doesn't come there for the whole Christmas. Maybe he just comes for dessert or like something that's going to make everybody feel a little bit more comfortable. Could be helpful. But ultimately, if you do decide not to bring him, which again is a valid thing, if you decide, I'm sure he will understand if you have a conversation and that's like it's up to you. Again, you want to I understand how difficult it is. Like you're stuck between deciding do you want to make your boyfriend happy and include him or do you want to make your family feel comfortable and it's like a very very difficult situation. But no matter what you decide to do in this instance, if you just like are kind of like, oh, like so frustrated and fed up, I'm just not going to bring him, which like is almost my personality. Like I might do that. Don't just make it like a one and done thing. Don't just like be like, okay, whatever, I'm not going to bring him. It's easier that way. And then just like wait until next year and the same thing happens. I think even if you decide not to bring him, you have to have like maybe a couple weeks from now, an ongoing conversation of what this issue is and how you're going to navigate it in the future, like what the boundaries are going to be around holidays, what your ideal holiday situation is, how you can work that out with your family, and just like dig into it a little bit, considering like how you want the rest of your relationship with this person and like you as a couple, your relationship with your family to play out, because that's a huge part of a relationship, especially if you're close with your family. This person says, how to keep things alive during early dating when I'm away for the holidays for 3 weeks. I love this question. I might end on this depending on how much. Yeah, I think I'm going to end on this question. Because I have a kind of a long winded answer for this. So, keeping the spark alive, I think ultimately I will say, first of all, that don't stress about this because the best thing you can do is just trust that connection that you have with this person. Because if the connection is good, it's not going to dissipate. Like if a connection disappears in 3 weeks, it probably wasn't that strong to begin with. So keep that in mind and try not to stress about it. But that being said, there are definitely things you can do. And all along the way, of course, you want to respect your partner's boundaries and the fact that maybe they're spending time with their family too, or like even yourself. Like you don't want to be up in your room texting your new boyfriend or the new person that you're dating the whole time that you're home and you're supposed to be spending the holidays with your family. Or I'm not necessarily sure what you're doing when you're away for 3 weeks, but you want to enjoy it. Again, you want to be present in the moment. And that, like we talked about in last week's episode, is an attractive quality that you have your own life and you're enjoying the things that you're doing. And I personally would be like a little like, maybe not turned off, but just like even subconsciously would probably find it a little weird if I just started dating someone and they were texting me nonstop when they were home for the holidays. You just want to make sure that you're like doing your thing and enjoying your time. So that's a given. So make sure you're doing that. But that doesn't mean that you can't be texting them and checking in and like keeping up that like excitement for the next time that you're together. And I honestly do think like as much as, yes, you should be enjoying your time with your family and letting them enjoy their time with their family, I think this time of year, everybody just like has a little like once you're like in the holidays, like this week of Christmas or the week between Christmas and New Year's, everyone just like has a little more time on their hands. Like there aren't any more like December is all holiday parties and pre-holiday things, but that last week is like a blank empty week where like you do have a little more time. They don't have to be like attached to their family all day. Like they do have time. They could text you. You can text them. So don't be afraid to check in with them a little bit throughout the day. But if they're not reciprocating, then stop. But check in with them, send them texts. Like usually like you can find little pockets of time to connect and you can do more than just text. So you can FaceTime, you can even send them like a voice note, which I never do, but I think would be like a cute thing to do early on. And do little things like send them a picture, send them little small updates throughout your day. So don't just like text them like, how's your day? Share something random that happened to you that day or like a funny story or send them a picture of something from like your, I don't know, like if you're out at like a restaurant and you have like a good meal, send them a picture of your food or like I almost said send them a picture of like something from your childhood home if that's where you are, but that I think that depends on like how your connection is because that might weird me out if I was like not sure about the person yet. But if you guys are like really vibing, then you could send them something cute like that. But just the general idea is like share little things because it teaches them more about you. This is like an opportunity where like no, they're not home with you, but you can share a little like I don't know, little teases of information that will help them learn more about like where you're from and just your like general like background and personality that they might not get to know if you're just sitting on a date asking each other questions. Like it helps them get to know you naturally. And then like another big thing is talking about your next date. So it doesn't have to be nonstop talking about your next date, but plan your next date, even if it's over text. Like if you know you're away for 3 weeks and you've already told them this and you're both doing your own thing for the holidays, it's a perfect opportunity to like ask them like, oh, what should we do on our next date? Or tell them what day you're free when you get back and give them an option to like plan the date and just like have that sort of like set on the calendar. It's going to A, give you something to look forward to and B, help ease that anxiety a little bit and also like help you, what I said, trust the connection that you have and give you that like sense of security. So plan the date and then tying things back to the beginning of the episode, flirt with them. So that can be over text and you can send little flirty text messages. You can tell them you miss them. Again, depending on like if you've been on 2 dates with this person, like I wouldn't say I miss you, but can't wait to see you when I get back. Like if you've planned that date or just like sending emojis, pictures, cute flirty messages, you can do that. And that will help kind of keep that momentum and that energy and those vibes going in between the dates while you're home. All right, I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys so much for listening. And thank you so much for like everything this year, for all of the new listeners that have come, for all of the new people that have joined the community on Instagram. This has been a pretty crazy year. You guys who have been here since the beginning know that this was my first year doing this solo. I had a co-host before this year, and it's amazing to see how much the community has grown. And I really appreciate you guys being here so much. I appreciate everybody who writes in questions and everybody who leaves ratings and reviews. Please do that if you have not yet. I hope you have an amazing holiday, and I'm so excited for everything that's to come in 2025. So I will talk to you all next week.